I used to think my neighbor was just a night owl. Then I saw him bearing a rug at 4 a.m., a rug that was definitely occupied. My name is Elias. In 2022, I lived in a quiet suburb outside of Philly, the kind of place where neighbors know your business before you do. But nobody knew about Mr. Holloway. I was working as a freelance video editor. My schedule was a mess. I was usually up until sunrise, fueled by cheap coffee and the blue light of my monitors. My desk faced the window that looked directly into Mr. Holloway's backyard. He was a retired librarian, or so he said. Quiet, polite, always wore a beige cardigan, even in July. Around October, things shifted. A large, unmarked white van started showing up every Tuesday at 2 a.m. No lights, no engine noise. It just appeared. Two men in high-visibility vests would get out, but they didn't look like delivery guys. They moved too fast, too synchronized. But here's the catch. They weren't delivering boxes. They were delivering heavy plastic-wrapped cylinders, about 6 feet long. One night, my curiosity got the better of me. I turned off my office lights and grabbed my Nikon. I watched through the long lens as they slid one of those packages out of the van. The plastic was translucent. As the street lamp flickered, I saw a shape inside. It looked like a hand. A human hand pressed against the plastic, fingers spread wide. I froze. I didn't breathe. My brain tried to rationalize it. It's a mannequin, I told myself. He collects weird art. But then, the hand moved. Just a twitch of the index finger. And this is where it gets truly unsettling. The two men carried the package to Holloway's basement hatch. He was standing there, waiting. But he wasn't wearing his beige cardigan. He was wearing a full yellow hazmat suit. He looked up, straight at my window. I ducked, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I waited 10 minutes, then peeked again. The van was gone. Holloway was gone. But his basement window was glowing with a strange, pulsing violet light. I texted my friend Marcus, who was a cop in the next precinct. I told him I think Holloway is running a lab or something worse. Marcus told me to stay put and he'd swing by in the morning. But I couldn't wait. At 3:30 a.m., I heard a wet slapping sound against my own back door. Slap, slap, slap. Like someone was hitting the wood with a piece of raw meat. I grabbed a kitchen knife and looked through the peephole. There was no one there. Just a trail of dark, viscous fluid leading from my porch, across the grass, and straight into Holloway's basement hatch. I followed the trail. I know, white guys in horror movies always do the dumb thing, but I had to know. I reached his basement window and looked down. The violet light was blinding. Inside, there were dozens of those plastic packages. All of them were upright now, and all of them were empty. Then I heard a voice behind me. Elias, you're up late tonight. It was Holloway. He was standing 3 feet away. No hazmat suit, just his beige cardigan. He was holding a glass of milk and smiling, but his eyes, they weren't moving. They were fixed, like glass marbles. I was just coming over to borrow some sugar, he said. At 4 a.m., while his basement smelled like a morgue. I didn't say a word. I ran back inside, locked every door, and pushed my dresser in front of the bedroom door. I called Marcus. No answer. I called 911. The operator told me a unit was on the way. But then I heard the click. My own basement door, inside my house, was opening. I don't have a basement that connects to his. Or I thought I didn't. I looked at my security app on my phone. A camera I'd hidden in the kitchen showed Holloway, or something that looked like him, crawling out from under my sink. His limbs were moving at impossible angles, like a spider's. He didn't head for me. He headed for my computer. He sat down, opened my editing software, and started deleting every frame of footage I'd taken that night. Then he looked into the camera, waved, and whispered, "See you next Tuesday, neighbor." When the police arrived, Holloway was asleep in his bed. His basement was empty. No violet light, no plastic. The trail of fluid on my porch? It was just spilled soda. Or so the officer said. I moved out the next day. I didn't even take my furniture. Last week I looked up the house on Zillow. It's back on the market. But the description says, perfect for someone who works late nights. I bought a smart lock to keep people out. I didn't know it was programmed to let one specific person in. My name is Liam. I'm a software dev, so I love tech. When I moved into my new apartment in downtown Chicago, the first thing I did was install a top-tier smart lock. Everything was controlled by my phone. Safe, right? Wrong. The lock had a feature. It sent a notification to my phone every time the door opened. For the first month, it was perfect. But then, it started happening. 3:14 a.m. every single night. I'd be dead asleep and my phone would buzz on the nightstand. Front door unlocked, guest code 4. But here's the problem. I never created a guest code 4. I lived alone. No girlfriend, no roommates, no family nearby. The first time it happened, I grabbed my baseball bat and ran to the living room. The door was wide open. Cold air from the hallway was pouring in. But the corridor was empty. I checked the logs. The code had been entered manually from the outside keypad. I changed the master code. I factory reset the whole system. I even called the manufacturer. They told me it was probably a software glitch. But then it got personal. The next night I stayed awake, sitting on my couch with the lights off, staring at the door. 3:13 a.m., 3:14 a.m. The electronic deadbolt slid back with a loud thud. The handle turned slowly. The door creaked open just a few inches. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I waited for someone to step in, but nobody did. Instead, a small black envelope was slid through the gap onto my floor. Then, the door was pulled shut, and the lock clicked back into place. Front door locked. I rushed to the door, ripped it open, and looked into the hall. Empty. The elevator wasn't moving. The stairs were silent. I opened the envelope. Inside was a Polaroid photo. It was a picture of me, sleeping in my bed, taken from the corner of my ceiling, and on the back, written in shaky black ink, "You forgot to turn off the oven." And this is the part that made my blood run cold. I hadn't used my oven in 3 days. I went to the kitchen. All 4 burners were on high. The room was blistering hot. The air smelled like gas. If I had slept another hour, the whole place would have been an inferno. I didn't call the police yet. I thought maybe I was being pranked by the previous tenant. I installed a hidden camera, not a smart one, just a basic SD card camera, above the door. The next night, I stayed at a hotel. I watched the footage the next morning. At 3:14 a.m., the door opens. A man walks in. He's wearing a maintenance uniform, but it's old, like from the 70s. He doesn't look around. He walks straight to my fridge, takes out a carton of milk, drinks from it, and puts it back. Then, he sits on my couch and stares at the wall for exactly 2 hours. But here is the kicker. Before he leaves, he walks over to my hidden camera. He looks directly into the lens. He doesn't have eyes. Just smooth, pale skin where his sockets should be. He leans in and whispers, and I could hear it clearly on the recording. Liam, the hotel room 402 has a faulty smoke detector. Fix it. I was staying in room 402. I checked the smoke detector in my hotel room. It had been gutted. Inside was a small, high-definition camera. I quit my job, sold my tech, and moved to a cabin in the woods with a heavy, old-fashioned iron bolt on the door. No Wi-Fi. No smart anything. Because the scariest thing about a smart home isn't the tech. It's who has the master key.